All right, good evening, everyone. It is now, 6:35, so we're gonna open this commission meeting for the 20th of September. So we're gonna stand and we're gonna have a moment of silence, and we're gonna follow that with our Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please. Here.
Here.
Here. Here.
Right, thank you. On the agenda, we were gonna move item number 5 down to under number 7 for now.
He's here.
Oh, he's here.
Yeah, he is?
Yeah, Adam's stuck in.
Yeah, he showed up.
Oh, okay, then we don't have to make any
Sorry.
changes. Oh, all right. Then I'll entertain a motion for the agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda as printed.
Second.
All right, it has been properly moved and second that the agenda be approved as printed. All those in favor respond with aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. All right, I'll entertain a motion at this time for the approval of the minutes from September the 9th.
I move we approve the minutes from September 9th that were included in the packet.
Second.
All right, this has been properly moved and second that the minutes from September 9th, 2021 be approved as printed. All those in favor respond with aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries 4-0. All right, with that, we will move down to item number 1, which is our budget item. Resolution number 2021-I.
Madam Mayor, this is a resolution of the City of High Springs, Florida, determining the amount of and fixing the final rate of ad valorem taxation for the fiscal year 2021, 2022, and providing for conflicts and severability and effective date. Appropriate motion is to pass Resolution 2021-I upon its reading by title only. The millage rate for 2021-2022 is fixed at 5.99 mils, which is an 8.875% increase from the rollback rate of 5.5017 mils.
Thank you. Discussion?
This would raise $2,138,440 in ad valorem tax. Should y'all accept this?
I have no comments.
All right, go right ahead.
No, I said I have none.
You have none. Oh, I'm all messed up today. All right. Any audience comments? All right, then we'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve Resolution 2021-I as read.
Madam Mayor, we have one hand on Zoom.
Oh, we had one hand on Zoom.
Sorry. Ms. Lita, if you'd like to speak to the commission, we'll bring you in now. Later on with the commission. Ms. Lita, you're muted. If you'd like to speak to the commission, ask that you unmute yourself. That hand may have been there.
Make the motion.
It is I.
Good.
No second?
Oh, I'll second it. I'm sorry.
He seconded it.
Oh, I didn't hear. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. The summary has a different letter, and we were comparing, and it really is I, and
Yeah,
We're fine.
we're fine.
Okay.
No issue.
all right. All right, Madam. Yes.
Vice Mayor Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Ambrose,
Yes.
Commissioner Jameson,
Yes.
Right, motion carries 4-0. All right, item number 2.
Madam Mayor, this is an ordinance. It's ordinance number 2021-08. An ordinance adopting the 2021-2022 fiscal year budget of the city of High Springs, Florida, and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is pass ordinance 2021-08 upon its second reading by title only.
All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Discussion.
So just to give you some background, Kevin, can you pull up? I did do a presentation, but I'm not going to read through it all because I know last time was very long. So, and I just want to give a recap for people that weren't here on first reading. We can go to the first slide. Just to let people know, from first reading, some changes I made, which kept the fund balance the same, was I allocated the fund balance up that we're using into the revenues to balance the budget. The other change was the addition of the contingency for the cemetery and the additional $39,000 that we got from the increased millage rate. Those were the only changes. So overall, our budget this year is $23,477,194. Then we can go to the next slide. As you can see, most of our money is from taxes and transfers from special revenue funds. Next slide. So again, this shows the same thing as the previous slide. It just puts the numbers with it. From taxes, overall, we receive slightly over $3 million. And then our next revenue sources, the franchise fees is $413,000 and intergovernmental $396,000. And transfers the $1.4 million. The majority of our expenditures are for the police department, followed by streets. And we can go on to the next one. Here's the detail for the general fund expenditures. Again, it just puts the numbers. For police, we spend approximately $1.9 million. For streets, we spend around $545,898. We did add an extra over $100,000 to the street budget this year and an additional employee. Special revenue fund summaries, I kind of put little asterisks by the things that were changed because this is where I brought the fund balance up to balance the budget. And as you can see, under the end of the year versus the end of the year, those were the any numbers that possibly changed. So the numbers that changed were Parks and Rec, where I brought the fund balance up due to a number of projects, but the fund balance stayed the same at $497, which was the same from first public hearing. The cemetery, we put $50,000 in there for revenues. The end of the year went down slightly, and that was changed from first public hearing due to that additional amount put in contingency. If we can go back. Transportation, there was one minor miscalculation that was around $10,000 that staff corrected. So we drew down the fund balance this year around $100,000, and we did that to transfer that to the general fund. And then there were no further changes. Enterprise fund, the same thing with water, was we brought the fund balance up into the revenue section to balance it out, but again, the ending fund balance still stayed the same. So then I just want to go over the projects that y'all are approving with this budget. Y'all made some minor improvements to the police facility. We're able to purchase some police vehicles, are paying for the impact fee study. You put money in there for a magistrate for a code compliance issue. You put money in there for 2 fire trucks, as well as the impact fee study portion for fire. Money was put in there for a Muni Code legal review to update our code of ordinances. We were able to put a public information budget in the budget for the first time. We put additional money in there to begin replacing computer hardware on a regular schedule. We put money in the building department to purchase the train depot from the CRA. We put some CRA projects in the budget that are ongoing from this budget year, as well as put additional money for downtown lighting and a photometric study. Parks was very ambitious. We put money in there for Parks, Memorial Park, Rails to Trails, Canoe Outpost. We increased the money for programming, activities, and events since there's been an increase since COVID. We put money in there for our Parks and Trail System Master Plan, which is required by the comp plan. And we put some money also for an impact fee study. That Parks is sharing that cost. We put money in there for the wastewater treatment plant expansion, water well number 3, AMI, water sewer master plan and impact fee study, and a storage building to protect our heavy equipment and our assets. We put money, we increased the street budget by over $100,000 and added an additional employee, and we put some money in there for a roads portion of the impact fee study. We put some money in facilities, minor AC and roof repair, and some money for the impact fee study, and then we included the cemetery contingency. So those were some of our major projects.
Thank you. Comment, Commissioners?
Well, I want to thank the city manager and the department heads. I think we're moving in the right direction. I think from a budget standpoint, I understand we had to play some chess pieces with the money, and I think we're good. I would ask, and I appreciate that the contingency, the extra money that we got from the ad valorem, about the 39,000 or so forth, I appreciate that going into contingency. I would ask when it comes around to it that we consider that maybe that goes towards roads and sort of jump starts that process where we're trying to get that and start to build that up. Obviously, that'll be made by other people than me, but I would hope that we would at least consider that. So I want to thank everybody.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, any comments from the citizens? No?
Madam
Anybody?
Mayor, if there's anyone on Zoom that would like to speak, please utilize the raise your hand function within Zoom now. Seeing no hands this time.
All right, thank you. Okay, is there a motion?
I move that we pass ordinance 2020-08, adopting the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget.
Second.
All right, it's been properly moved in second. Ms. Paul?
Vice Mayor Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Ambrose,
Yes.
Commissioner Davidson,
Yes.
and
Yes. Okay, our next item, number 3, presentation discussion items. Presentation on using ARPA funds on an opioid task force. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, and staff. It's good to be here tonight. Thank you so much for this time. I'm Joy Glanzer, Chair of the Newberry Opioid Task Force. And our Mayor, Jordan Marlowe, was supposed to be here, but as you may know, he's a high school teacher, and tonight was open house. So he sends his regrets, and he's sorry he can't be here. But with me are the Vice Chair, Naeem Urchid, and our Treasurer, Mark Modis, and Charlene Cook, and Sherry Jones, who survived the adventure in the elevator on the way here. So we're very glad she made it. About 2.5 years ago, Mayor Marlowe suffered the loss of a student in his class, and that loss to a drug overdose, and that loss affected him profoundly. He set out to find out more information about this issue, and he found out a shocking statistic. This is about 2.5 years ago, and that was that Alachua County was number 2 in the whole state of Florida for drug overdose deaths. And this was his call to action. So he came back to the Newberry City Commission and proposed that we create a Newberry opioid task force made up of citizens and volunteers. I was on the commission at that time, and after I've experienced a decades-long addiction in my family, and so I jumped right in, and I was eager to support his project, and that is when the task force was created. May I remove my mask to speak? Thanks. There's virtually no one that we know who has been unaffected by drug abuse, whether it's family, friends, coworkers, or people in the community. And it has a broad devastation, the cause of drug addiction. But the reason I'm here tonight is to say what we all know, and that is that drug addiction has no boundaries. It doesn't know where Newberry starts and High Springs ends. The same thing that happens in our communities happens in Alachua, Hawthorne, Archer, and beyond. And over the next month, we will also be visiting Archer, Hawthorne, and Alachua, as they too have elementary schools. The project that our task force is funding now is called Rad Kids. And in your packet is a brief overview of that program if you haven't heard of it before. And I encourage you to go to their website and see more. And there's a video on it. It's a powerful program. And a few years ago, I had the opportunity to watch a demonstration of it. And I was blown away. And I thought to myself at that time, well, I wish we could have this in our community. The program, essentially, it empowers our kids to be in control of their bodies. It includes character building, self-esteem, anti-violence education, and other powerful tools for our children to learn. One of our task force members is someone you may know, Officer Casey Hamilton. He's now the Deputy Staff Chief for the Alachua County Public Schools, and he's heading up our Rad Kids program on the task force. He heavily, strongly supports it and endorses it, and with his leadership, we expect it to be a great success. Students who are in the program, they're in there for 2 years, and it's staggered. If they start in first grade, they'll also have it in third grade. If they start in second, they'll have it in fourth, and so on. The trainers, they'll be trained, and they include anyone. They can be teachers, law enforcement, citizens, parents, anyone who's interested in participating in this program. And that's what the funding is going to pay. Some of the funding will pay for training these trainers. The program has been around for about 20 years. And here we are. We have the opportunity not only to give our children the tools they need to fend off drug issues, but to give them a holistic way to protect themselves. We're asking tonight that the City of High Springs dedicates funds from your American Rescue Plan Act. This is really a one-time opportunity to pledge funds which do not affect your bottom line of your budget. Newberry's ARPA funding was approximately $3 million, and we're so pleased to tell you that last week they approved funding $15,000 of the ARPA funds to the Newberry Opioid Task Force project. Our ask of you is $10,000 from your ARPA funds. The money from Newberry will pay for all the training for all the elementary schools in our 5 municipalities that have them. Your money will go to supplement, it'll go to actually add to that and supplement those funds in raising awareness, advertising the program, and leveraging the other monies we have with programs like Children's Trust and Families First, which Sherry is a part of. They know of our plan and they're very supportive of it. So we hope that all 5 cities in our municipalities can have this program. So the bottom line is we do the work and your community gets the benefit. Newberry's task force just happens to be an organization that's already there. We can do the groundwork. The city of Newberry does all the accounting for funds, and your $10,000 will actually stay in your bank. It won't come to us, and you will spend it as it's needed. We're accountable for the program, and we have a whole bunch of volunteers that are ready to get going. As I said, drug abuse knows no boundaries, and we have to work together. We can accomplish together what we can't do as individuals. I can tell you it would have been a big stretch, Scott may be able to tell you, with Newberry to get this funding if it hadn't been for the ARPA funds. As I said, it's a one-time opportunity to have these funds to use for programs just like this. And a line item on that funding, I believe, is for mental health issues, and drug abuse during COVID definitely has skyrocketed and is one of those issues. So I sincerely hope you see it the same way we did in Newberry, and we all win if we're focused together to teach our children how to live a drug-free life. Together, we're infinitely more strong than we are individually. Anybody have anything to add to that? Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Yes, oh wait, excuse me, Mark Modis.
Hi, my name is Mark Modis. I really appreciate your time. I want to apologize for being late. I also teach over at Santa Fe College as a professor over there, a few classes, and also work at Land Publication. I would just want to say, we definitely need your assistance. I moved here about 5 years ago from Broward County. I was the director of accounting for our school district. And needless to say, I was quite surprised when we moved and got the kids into Alachua County. Both my kids at middle school said, "Dad, we had a great day today. We were able to use our lockers." And being, I guess, naive coming from Broward County, I'm like, "You weren't allowed to use the lockers in Broward County?" No, because that's where all the drugs and that's where all the weapons are stored. So that was a big revelation to myself, thinking, oh my God. And hear the wonderful work that's been done so far. And we would really love to spread it throughout Alachua County because there's a lot of kids that need that assistance. So again, I appreciate your time listening to us today. Thank you.
Thank you for hearing us tonight. I'm Charlene Cook, part of this task force. And we're finding that children are being exposed to drugs and at a much younger age, even in elementary school now. I'm a grandmother who found my grandson dead on my bathroom floor a month ago. And I think this is so prevalent. I don't want to see another grandmother find her child, grandson, granddaughter dead. So please consider this an urgent plea from all of us. It is very necessary that we help our little ones to be aware of this so that they have a fighting chance. Thank you.
Madam Mayor and Board, thank you so much. My name is Naeem Urched. I'm the Vice Chair of the Opioid Task Force. I won't get into my story, but I do deal with drug addicts and alcoholics, especially down in Miami and different rehab centers. But that's not really what I'm here today to tell you about. What I want to tell you real quick is I've been tasked to reach out to private businesses to help for our October 23rd kickoff event that's happening at Berry Park in Newberry from 1 to 3. And we're having raffles. And as I'm approaching these businesses to donate, either time or money, I'm finding out that a lot of these business owners are telling me, you know what, this is a great thing because my son, my grandson, my granddaughter is addicted to opioids. And I can't believe someone's actually trying to do something about it. And that's why our motto in Newberry's Opioid Task Force is from silence to solutions, because we're just tired of this being suppressed and being kept quiet. And we need to bring this to the light. We need to get people to talk. And I believe that this task force is doing just that. So it'd be great that just with the city of Newberry, city of High Springs, and as we reach out to other cities to help our youth develop the ability to say no, to develop that courage to stand up to this and to say something when they see something going on. Because that's the other thing. You need to say something. You can't just keep it quiet. You need to stand up. So I hope you guys would stand with us in solidarity and take Alachua County from being number 2 in the state in addiction rates to, God willing, last place. So thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
I appreciate your time and the drive you've been putting forward as a task force. I've been following along on Facebook. And I'm sorry for some of your losses. And it's hard to step forward and try and look for a solution. you know, we haven't, as a commission, looked at our ARPA funds as a group, so we'll have to do that when that opportunity comes forward. And I guess at some point, I'd also be interested, if this is focusing on elementary, what's being done for middle school, high school, and also even first responders to empower them more broadly. I know from experience, a lot of times the first person on the scene might be a police officer or somebody, and those departments that are equipped with Narcan and other things are really important. So I'm talking. So it's okay, Josh. Yeah. So if you have more information on those opportunities and that kind of involvement, I know that a lot of the employees in my company have actually been trained and have Narcan available to them. And most people don't realize that's an over-the-counter drug that anyone can give to someone who's having a reaction to an opioid. So it's expensive, but it lets somebody breathe. So that's all I had to say. So thanks for coming and putting this in front of us.
All right. Anybody else?
Just a quick question. Has the program been approved yet to be in the school district? Has it been approved to go into the classrooms, or is that what Mr. Hamilton is going to be working
Our
on?
goal with the task force is to put it in all the schools, and the Alachua County School Board is aware of Rad Kids, and they support it. As I said, Casey Hamilton is the district chief right now, and he supports it. It just takes money. And to your point about middle schools and high schools, our task force is brand new. We had to start somewhere. And what we were told was that if you can't get these kids at 10 years old, it's too late. And so that's why we're starting in the elementary school. God willing, we get funding and we can have a lot more programs and hit the middle school and high school in places that it's needed. But right now, this is the best we could do with the funds that we have. And when we were created, we don't treat the addict. We don't have facilities like that. There are things, for that in the county. Our main goal was to raise awareness and to educate the public about the drug crisis. So that's where we're starting. But this is forever. It's not just this year. This is for years to come, a generational thing. So we hope we'll have it everywhere.
To your concern, Madam Mayor, so this is like Chair Joyce said, it is the starting point. Unfortunately, we're seeing drugs being used on the elementary school level, which is something that blows my mind dealing with drug addicts and alcoholics. The plan is to move on as well from that. It's just we got to start our roots somewhere. The great thing about asking for this 10K that would be coming from this funding is you guys have control of all that money. We won't ask for it until it's actually like it's time to actually sign a check. It stays with you guys until all the T's are crossed, all the I's are dotted. It's not like we're asking for a check today and we'll get you paperwork back later. But as far as the schools, Rad's program is already approved. The only issue that they have is the funding to do it, and that's where we're trying to get to, is get that funding so we can bring it to them and bring it to our city schools. Thank you.
Anybody else here? No? All right, any audience comments? You have anybody? Nobody? Okay, we thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to item number 4, presentation on Head Start program. Elder George.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Commission. Roughly 2 weeks ago, Adam Joy approached the commission in reference to the possibility of partnering with the city of High Springs regarding the Head Start program, and Adam Joy is here to do his presentation, and I'll be here for any questions that need to be answered, unfortunately, if he can't.
Good evening, Commissioner, Madam Mayor, City Manager, everybody in their respective places. As Mr. Damon said, I did briefly let you guys know about the program. I'm not sure if you guys want me to explain more, or I think the City Manager said you guys had specific questions.
The facility and the restrooms, if they would still be open to the public, which they would have to be, how that would work, how the food would work. Safety and security was a big part of it. So if you could kind of address some more of the operational and how the kids would be safe and how that works.
So just like our current facility over behind the subway, safety and security is my number one top priority. I could see somebody 2,000 feet before they even get close to our building. So in addition to, watching for people, we would need to keep the doors locked for the safety of the kids, and the doors as far as the room that they would actually be in while they're learning, because they can't see out, the teachers can't see out, and we don't want just a random person to just walk in there and be armed or something like that. As far as the restrooms and stuff like that, I know that the Santa Fe room does not have restrooms inside of the actual room itself, and I discussed that with the Head Start program, and they said that as long as one of the teacher assistants can escort a child to the restroom when they needed to go, that would be more than fine. We would never send any child to the bathroom by themselves in a public space like that. As far as the food is concerned, we would be partnering with the USDA food program. So we would need to store food in the room, and there is room for that. We would not need to cook anything. We would just need to put maybe a deep freezer in there and a refrigerator. I went by there today and measured the room. It's over 1,200 square feet, so it's more than enough room for the storage of the food that they will be delivering weekly for the program.
Speak to that at all.
So as far as our insurance is concerned, and as far as the Head Start program, the restrooms that's there are fine. As long as they can actually get in there, none of the students are going to be in a wheelchair or anything like that. So the restrooms that are there. So,
And is Head Start insured? I mean, we all have additional insurance.
yes. So how it works is we have our own liability insurance, which is very costly. We have to have the Head Start program as an additional insured, and the City of High Springs or the Rec Department, however you guys choose, would also be an additional insured as well. I know you guys have your insurance, but you will be additionally insured under the insurance that we have.
It would be the city of High Springs. So it needs to be named as an additional insured.
Just to clarify, the Santa Fe room, y'all would be in operation like from 7 to 3 and then 3 to 6 an after school program, but it would not be accessible to us in the evenings or the weekends the whole time the Head Start program was going on, correct?
Correct. Now, if in all honesty, and I know the police department uses maybe a room or two over there sometime for training, the way the room would be set up, it's mostly little tables and little chairs and shelving. All of that stuff is stuff that can be moved out of the way. So if the police department or if the city needed to use it for something, that's definitely doable. The only thing is with the liability of letting a random group come in there, and then all of the thousands of dollars of equipment that'll be in the room, and electronics and stuff, if something goes missing or something gets damaged or somebody does anything to anything, then that's something that we don't want to happen. It would be for the school year. And it will be 7 a.m. to about 5:45 if we do the after school program, which is what we're also needing space for tutoring the High Springs Community School students and First Christian Academy
Couple questions, Mayor.
Yes.
So it's just the one room.
Yes.
So the kitchen area that's right there next to it, you're not going to use that?
I didn't know it was there until today, but we don't need to use that.
Well, the only reason I was saying that, because I know that the employees use that for breaks and for lunch. The bathroom, and I understand, so are you talking, how many kids are you talking about? About 20?
Yes.
So you're gonna have 2 people, 1 per 10?
Yes.
And then will there be an aide that
Yes.
be with them?
Yes.
So there would be 3 people in there?
It will be 2 teachers, an assistant, myself, 50% of the time, and my assistant director the other 50% of the time for accountability.
There's no closet space in there at all. So I'm curious, and I'm just curious, where are you going to store items in that building? Because there is no, everything that's a closet is with the utilities.
Right. That's where the shelving would come into place. The room is big enough that the shelving for food items can be near the refrigerator and the freezer in the backside of the room or anywhere in its own area.
And the refrigerator are gonna be going into that main room.
Yes. In order for us not to need to use any other space other than in that room.
What about outside?
Outside, the kids would need an outside play area that would need to be fenced in. It would not have to be huge. I looked at that today when I was there. There's plenty of space out there that we could fence them in a little area off to the left side of the building that's closer to the public works on that end. But they would need to have a fenced in area for safety that they don't go running after a ball and get hit by a car. And there's multiple options for fencing of that nature.
Going on the site where you've got the fence there?
I don't, because of the amount of space.
The cities, whatever the day is.
Pioneer Day.
Pioneer Day, I apologize. I mean, saying they do that right where you're talking about is where they normally do it.
In all honesty, the size that it would probably be this square that's here. And the amount of space that's outside, I don't think that it would be a problem. That's just my opinion. I don't think it would be any different than if the city wanted to, or Parks and Rec wanted to fence in an area to put more equipment or something like that. It really would take up too much space outside.
That would be debatable. Because, I mean, we don't know. The buzz-in, when you come in, somebody's going to have to be available to let them in because the door has to be locked. And so therefore, you're going to have a camera with a buzz-in so the person can buzz to come into the room. How does that affect the employees?
Well, they would not need to be buzzed in. The only doors that would need to be locked is the actual door that goes into the room, not the actual building.
Okay, and so the person would simply just knock on the door and then somebody would come?
Yep.
I'll be honest, I'm concerned with the bathroom situation. I get on the deal, I'm concerned with that. You're gonna have adults using the bathroom, 3, 4, and 5-year-olds using the bathroom. And during the summer, I think at times they employ some high school students or some summer. So we would have additional people working for the city on this one here. Does it during the summer? Are we
No,
talking
it's only the school.
just the school year? Okay, thank you for clarifying. Okay.
She's asleep.
Mayor.
If you can watch her. Good job. Good job.
Adam, you put in here you received a grant. How long is the grant for?
If the grant covers us for the school year.
How many years?
Year to year. It's school year to school year. So we would do it this year, and then, this coming summer. Any provider, every summer you have to reapply for the grant.
the museum. I'm just trying to grasp, and this is why we're gonna have information, we can get it, is we're gonna have kids there, but we're also gonna have people coming in, doing business with the city, and possibly seeing the museum, but we're gonna have young kids. And I'm just trying to see how they mesh. I'm not saying against it, I'm just trying to figure out how that meshes to where we can do it. And then basically from the school year, that Santa Fe room is out of business. So, I mean, for anything, I mean, so you're basically saying from 10 months, basically, it's off limits. Thank you.
And to answer your question, you said you're trying to see how it would go together. I mean, I think the rec director could speak more, but I don't think it would be any different than them having the 70 kids that were there the whole summer, who were still coming in all summer as well, while those kids were there for summer camp. Just a longer time period than just the summer.
Did you have a response? I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, he could speak to the ages. I think, to me, there's a big difference in this regard. You're talking 3, 4, 5-year-olds. To me, that's different than 12, 13, 14. I don't know how the age is, and maybe it was the same. That's the only thing, and I'm just saying, to me, that's a major difference from an accountability, a liability type of thing. It's just the age of the kids.
True, very true. Yes, sir.
Does the museum not entertain the classes that comes in for tour over there any longer? Do they?
Yes, ma'am, on occasion.
So that would be another thing to consider that as well. Because I don't know how you're gonna learn if you've got all this traffic going back and forth with these groups.
Is that how our kids will learn? They will be in the room. Right.
Right, I understand that. But you've got this tour going through there as well. Periodically, I know they do that. That was something I was concerned about. Right, ma'am?
Yeah. I was concerned about that too, the museum. And this past summer, with the art group in there, that it takes up that area for the entire summer, and we can't use it for anything else. This will take up the entire school year, and we can't use it for anything else. And I guess what you're saying is it's not just only Head Start staff who will be in the building. There will be you in your office, museum staff. But you have to keep the doors locked. People will have to have access with a key or something. Another issue I have with it is that in the past, there's been some issues that if we allow one nonprofit to occupy our buildings, we should have other people that could come and request it as well. And we don't have space for that. So that would be another decision we would have to make. There may come a time when there's others who would like to have that room as well. I really like that room for city business, to be able to have town meetings or, in fact, our homeowners has had meetings in there, different areas that have had meetings in there. I just, I don't know, I just don't see it as a good possibility.
Mayor?
Yes.
I'd like to add to the comments in that, the outdoor play area, okay, if you're gonna fence it, it's a Head Start program. So that play area is gonna have to be in compliance. So as far as the ground and absorbing and whatever, play stuff you put out there is gonna have to be age appropriate and safe. And when you're not there at night or on weekends, who's to say that the community doesn't hop the fence or that whatever, so does it become a liability as a new park for that the city now has on its property or a play area on its property? And how will that really be maintained and whatnot? But this is pretty short notice for a year-long commitment. And you bring in refrigerators and coolers and they sit on that carpet that wasn't designed for that. And your contract is only for a year. At the end of it, if the carpet's been damaged or anything, and just from all the different activities, the heavy use that room will now have, are there funds available to restore that room? Because it's only a one-year contract, and we don't even have an agreement yet. But then other groups use that, like for instance, the robotics program used that building last year for their season, which was, I believe it's about to start through December, January. They could use the other room. But again, we've now filled that building and you're going to have those kids and those parents coming and going. And the Parks Board regularly met there, once a month. And that room would then conflict with the Swamp Bots because they meet, 3 to 5 nights a week during their season. So I think we're really tying our hands by taking the largest alternative meeting space the city has and tying it up 24/7 for 10 months out of the year to service this need. And it's a valid need. We need childcare in this community. And so I'm not discounting that. I just don't know that this is a best solution for really trying to support what you're trying to do long term.
I do have a response, whatever.
On the deal. So days of operation, obviously, we're closed on Fridays, you're open on Fridays.
Correct.
And so we're going to be giving you and certain people keys to the building. Well, that's something that we have to consider because I don't know to what extent we want to have keys out to other individuals. And it's the same thing with the school board. Not on this one. I think that's something which we would have to consider because all of a sudden now people would have access to that building 24/7. Just something to think about.
So I just wanted to say, I hear all of your responses and what your concerns are. I do want to clarify that it's not just childcare, it's actually a program that is designed to help very, very low-income, struggling families with children who are homeless, have deceased parents, who are have learning disabilities, and a host of other things. It's not just, I don't want you guys to think he's just trying to expand his preschool. It's a program that is needed in this community. And we got the grant, the money's there, that all of these children would be able to attend for free for the school year. That is a tremendous blessing to any family. So to say, and this is just my opinion, to say that, oh, we can't meet there once a month because they'll be in there, there are other meeting places. I know that you guys let Catholic Charities use the building that they're in. They've been there for years, and they're a nonprofit. There are other nonprofits that have used city buildings for decades, who had a key, who paid very little for rent. And we're not asking for favoritism. I just simply asked the city manager, the assistant city manager, Mr. Damon, if they would meet with me. We never even asked for the Santa Fe room. I asked about Catherine Taylor Park and the daycare that is there. And then they brought it up to me as an alternative because the daycare at Catherine Taylor Park has the issues that's going on there. So we never asked for the Santa Fe room. I wanted the daycare that's already a daycare. This is just an option that they offered, and they were trying to go about it the right way. Mr. Damon, for him to be the rec director that's there day in and day out, he's very excited about it and thinks it's a great idea. But if you guys who have the voting power decide to say no, then that's your power to do that. and I'll have no problem continuing to search for somewhere to put it. I have a few weeks to try to find somewhere else, and I'm most likely going to have to push it to the city of Alachua, and I'll just have to do that. But it's going to be sad that the families that live here that need this service and this program would have to, and 80% of them don't even have cars, that they're going to have to struggle to try to get the kids to Alachua just so they can learn at a better advantage. So again, I thank city manager, assistant city manager, and Mr. Damon. But you guys are entertaining something that I never asked for. It was just a second option because what I asked for wasn't available. So every concern that was brought up, the playground, there's a solution. There really is a solution for every single thing that all of you brought up. There's a solution. That's why we have insurance that costs so much. That's why we have policies, procedures, guidelines, directives, trained staff, and people that make sure that things are done the way that they're supposed to be. And our preschool we have now filled up quickly in just a few months, and that's because people know that I take this very seriously, especially when it comes to other people's children. So I appreciate your time. I don't know if you guys have to vote on it or ask me anything else, but I just wanted to say thank you for your input. But every solution, every concern that was brought up is not something that really should stop this program, or that should stop the city from partnering with school in our church. It's just sad that so many little concerns are going to stop things in such a major way for so many families that really, really need this program. Every concern that was brought up is something that can be taken care of. That's my thoughts.
So you did approach us, and the community center is not available because there's mold in there. And so the Santa Fe room is the only option. Obviously, I think everyone up here thinks the Head Start program is great. But the Santa Fe room, I understand there are issues as far as a lot of people do use it, so staff understands where the commission's coming from as well.
Any more comments here?
I just want to say that
Okay.
I believe when I was sitting talking with Mr. Damon, the whole reason that we were talking about that room is because nobody regularly uses it. They may have a meeting there, here and there, but nobody regularly uses that room at all.
Okay. That's a thought.
Mayor, just one more thing is, the devil's in the details, on something like this, and we have a good idea, but I think to try and move forward without a lot of things being ironed out on this very tight time frame could come back and not reflect well on the city in that space, and so that's my concern at this point. So I don't know what kind of, whether you just want consensus or motion or what have you, but I don't think we have enough information to feel comfortable moving forward, but that's me. I don't know where anyone else is at.
Anybody else?
Do we need a vote on that?
How quickly do you need to use the facility, Adam? How
We would need it by the middle of October. But I do want to say the whole reason of me coming up 2 weeks ago and the way that the agenda reads for tonight is because I have to give them, the grant holder, an answer as to where in the world are we going to put it. Got the kids, got the money, got the families, where are we going to put it? And that's something that they need to know. I can't just wait until the program starts and say, okay, well, let's put it over here. One of the meetings tonight is, and I'm not upset at all. I just don't want to, I want you guys to feel like you have to do more homework. I feel like, I think I've said enough. You guys have heard enough. I don't think everybody knows enough about the program itself to actually understand how important it is, but I think I've answered the questions to the best of my ability as far as major concerns can be addressed. And I don't think anything should go past tonight because of my timeline that I have to tell them it could be there or it can't be there. They said the room is suitable, but if you guys say no, I told them that I said they vote tonight. If they say no, then it's no. I'm not gonna say another word about it, but I can't go.
I didn't mean to cut you off. If we had a vote on a lease on October 14th, does that meet your requisites, the work?
No, sir, because the kids will literally come in to start school October 18th. I think that's a Monday. Yeah, Monday, October 18th.
So that means do we have a meeting on the 28th? We're not, our next meeting would be, I'm sorry? 14th of October is our next meeting, Adam, unless we have a special meeting in between now and then. Madam Mayor, we can draft a lease. If that's what the commission's intention is, we can draft a lease that will accommodate a number of these issues. So your decision is, do you want legal to work with Adam to do that? And is that site something that you want to tie up via that lease? That's really the function of it, but that's your question.
But I think all the other things the commission mentioned needs to be weighed in on those decisions, because that's a number of things that ultimately staff from administrative side is going to have to handle. So, that's assuming staff can work all those details out. And we might be able to make it by that time, but we might not, because there's a lot of details there. So I don't want to hold hope out on something that might be able to work but might not. So I just want to put that out there.
I think it's a worthwhile program. We have it at the school board, and I've been involved and I've worked with them. But to be honest, I don't think the city's the place that the program should be. I think there's too many unknowns, and I don't think we're in a position to where at this point in time we can do it. So I would not be in favor at this point, because I don't think it's compatible. Regardless if they said that, I don't think it's compatible with employees being in there, strangers coming in there. I just don't think it's in that regard. So if we're doing it, I would not be in favor of it at this time.
I agree. And I too think it's a worthwhile program, but I just don't think it's a good fit.
Okay.
I believe that all things work together for our good. So, came to hear what y'all had to say, and this is y'all city. Y'all don't want to do it, then we don't. I appreciate your time, though.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did I ask the audience if they had any thoughts?
Yes, you did.
Okay, I did. Okay, then in that case, let's go ahead to number 5. Discuss, consider, and act on using, we just did it.
6.
Yeah, we just did that. Presentation on gateway signage. All right, how are you?
As I was preparing for our meeting tonight, it's pretty funny because this, about 21 years ago, this commission asked me to start a farmer's market this week. It was this week, 21 years ago. But I was first at this podium. It was pretty impressive. When I went back to wow, it's pretty cool. It's been a long 21 years, but it sure has been a good 21 years for this town. I'm here to talk to you about the gateway signs that we've had in our community here for going on decades, really. The history of them, of course, we'll get into. But first, I want to introduce you to the newest nonprofit in town, Heart of High Springs. Can we start with that one, Kevin? Oh, I do? Oh, thanks. Okay, great. This nonprofit was created about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I think. I wasn't part of the original group of the board of directors. I'm now serving as its secretary of the board. And it's really developed into what High Springs has needed for a long time. High Springs has needed an umbrella type of a 501c3 charitable community organization, community-based, that could do, that would have the flexibility to work in a variety of different areas and help where the help was needed at the time. Economic growth and tourism certainly are key to this community's well-being, but we look at it from a broader perspective, the cultural, the historic, the revitalization, all different kinds of avenues and different, what we like to think of having a lot of tools in the toolkit to achieve these goals. And because we've developed a broader based mandate and a purpose, we're going to be able to do that for the community. Three ways that we're currently strategizing to accomplish that is the gateway signs, which is a long-standing project started apparently with the chamber more than 20, 30 years ago. I got here 22 years ago, and the old signs I think were still here. In 2007, the then Main Street program took it over with the encouragement of the city, but they were never maintained. And so now what we want to do is one thing that we want to take on. It's a one-shot deal for us in a sense of raising the money, get new signs, and get this done. We're going to be bringing a wonderful, well-established, well-recognized national program called Wall Dogs to High Springs in 2023. It's going to be a mural and history festival. We're actually going to be celebrating the history of High Springs, which also has its own history of murals throughout the community. And also, one thing that we're also going to be doing is acting as fiscal agent for groups that don't have their 501c3. They haven't been able to organize into an organization that can apply for grants, can take on certain projects, and we'll be helping groups do that by managing the money for them, doing the reporting, the accountability, and even helping and apply for grants and things like that. This is our board of directors. You might recognize some of those names up there. I joined the board about a year ago and was a board member for a while, and then we just recently had elections, and I was reelected as secretary. Nancy Lavin is our president, former city commissioner as well. Olivia Medina, Michael Holder, and I were on the executive committee, and of course, Mr. Ambrose, Lita Carrero, and Kelly Barber, a local businessman in town, has just joined our board. That's the introduction. I just wanted to give you a brief hello. This is who we are, and this is why we're asking. Oh, that's the end of it. All right. So what we want to do is talk about the gateway signs. Go to the next slide. These are the existing sites of all the signs that were put up in 2007. I don't know if they were the original signs from 20, 30 years ago, but they weren't, were they? No. But these are the signs, these are the locations, truly the gateways to High Springs. Every major gateway is covered. And that's one of the original signs. That is our largest sign that's located on 441 in front of the High Springs Animal Hospital. That's what it looked like when it was new. I'll have to, let me just put it to you that way. What we want to do is keep with the design, keep the same design. We really love the fact of this is our town. We're historic, we're a small community, and I think we like our own uniqueness. The sign on the left is actually a sign that exists in James Paul Park when a group of, I believe it was the Main Street group, a group of volunteers got together and revitalized James Paul Park with the landscaping, the benches and things like that. They put up that, they also paid for that sign. We're also looking at another sign that would go by the clock tower in downtown as a welcome into downtown, so the inner gateway, so to speak, of the city. And that would be funded through the CRA department, CRA budget. So the current situation, it's really Mr. Attorney, it's really about legal stuff. It's really about the easements. That's what we're here to discuss most importantly. Before, when the easements were done, the city was left out. The city had no governance, they had no say. It was the nonprofit that existed at the time, which is defunct at this, now it's was the High Springs Community Development Corporation, which was running the Main Street program at the time. That company is out of business. They've been gone for quite a while now. And basically no one was left to tend to the signs. So they were left to become dilapidated again. So that's the second round. What we're trying to do is make sure that doesn't happen a third time. And what we want to do is work with the city, help get those easements, get the city included in those illegal easements so that the city will have some level of governance on from generation to generation, from decade to decade, from community president to community president. There'll be longevity, there'll be that history, and hopefully the caretaking that will be needed. The easements would include hopefully an MOU, maybe perhaps between the city, the Heart of High Springs, and the property owner. We have all of the property owners' approvals to redo the signs on their properties. We have one property owner that declined, and so we found a new property owner on 236 who's very willing to do this. Private funding will be 100% used to purchase and to manufacture and produce the signs. We're going to raise that money ourselves. We're not asking the city for any funding on budget night, especially. ThemeWorks, is Ryan here, by the way? Yes. Okay, Ryan from ThemeWorks is here. He can address anything to do with maintenance, cost of maintenance, what it's going to take. We're basically going to be receiving, I don't know if I can say that, he can't say this, but I can say Disney-esque quality of products. These are going to be long-lasting, easy to maintain, and very, very nice to look at. Simple maintenance, washing, not even pressure washing. I'll just take a little hose or a little bit of water and wipe them down. The background, as we've discussed, started with the chamber many, many, many years ago, then went to Main Street, and now we're in the current situation where we have dilapidated signs. They need to be replaced, and they need to be cared for, and we need a new plan so that we don't lose track of taking care of them. We want the easements. Again, really the main reason we're here is so that the city is included in those easements. And so we get the easements, maybe a memorandum of understanding between ourselves. We do the fundraising, ThemeWorks does the production, and then we talk about if we want to, and then if we get into phase 2 of talking about landscaping, maybe lighting, someone suggested maybe we might want to light them, maybe, we can look at that in the future as well. And here's a great quote from Ryan, and I'm going to let him come up here and say a few words. He's from ThemeWorks, our own High Springs company.
Well, I know some of you already. It's a pleasure to see you again, and we are excited about the project, as the quote said. I drive up 441 every single day, well, every weekday anyways, and I was really proud of those signs when they first went in. I've worked in High Springs for over 20 years now, and was very proud of those signs and slowly watched them degrade. And I think part of the problem with those signs is not only were they situated in an area where they couldn't be maintained, the materials that were used were such that they couldn't be maintained either. There were some printed materials that just faded in the sunlight over several years, whereas everything that we would provide would be very long lasting. The paints are meant for outdoor use on signage. It is the same materials that we would use when we produce signs for Disney and Universal Studios, and they are all highly maintainable. Everything paint can be touched up if need be. They can be washed. It's very similar to a car paint, so a little bit of soap and water will clean them up and keep the mold from growing on them if they're in a shaded area. And if there's any questions about the signage or the materials, I'd be happy to answer them.
When is the cleaning?
I would say every You know, it depends on where they're located. If they're located under a tree that produces a lot of pollen and they're going to get a lot of gunk on them, they should be cleaned more often. If they're not, then they may not need to be cleaned very often at all. It's very similar to if you had a car parked there. Of course, they're more vertical, so they won't collect soil as fast as a horizontal surface on a car. But I would say every 6 months, perhaps. But we would install them.
Okay, so once they're in, then they become ours. And the only reason I'm asking this is if it was like a weekly type of thing or something, from a manpower standpoint, you would have to have a routine maintenance schedule done. You follow what I'm saying?
I think, you know, if they only got cleaned once a year, probably nobody would notice that they're, but again, it does depend on where they're located. If they're located next to a field that's getting plowed
Well, then
frequently, or under a tree that's producing a lot of sap and pollen,
Well, you would want to make sure they're placed where none of that stuff is at.
ideally, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
That's one of the reasons why we went with Kingworth's recommendations, is because of that, specifically because we wanted to avoid all the problems that we had.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
What would be the cost of the signs? I realize that you're raising the money for it. but can you-
Total of all six, the 6 signs that we're proposing to do, that we're gonna be in charge of, is about $55,000 in total. Now, that doesn't include the landscaping and any lighting that we might wanna add later.
That when you say we,
Part of High Springs, the nonprofit.
okay, so
So-
you will provide the lighting and the landscaping.
We can discuss that once we, once we get past this first phase, which is to get the easement, so we can get this, we'd be more than happy to partner with you on landscaping and lighting. We would be happy to discuss however you wanted to do it, because we would have an MOU where we could work together. That's the beauty of this situation.
I understand what you're saying, and I love the signs. I think they would be beautiful. That's not the issue. As far as cleaning with water, would all of these signs have, would there be water resources available to be able to clean them?
They're all on private properties. We can probably do a query with the property owners to see if that's.
Because that would be a main,
That would be possible.
yeah.
Bruce, do we have a pumper truck
Water,
that we
though.
could use?
I think
Like
we
a
could
pumper
use a
truck?
bucket, and
Yeah.
wipe them down, it's not, we're not talking about really having to, have a hose of, with a hydrant.
Well, no, but you would need a hose or something to wash it down with water. I mean, but we would discuss the cost of landscaping and lighting later, is what you're saying.
Right, we're not really asking you for any money at this point. All we're asking for you is to partner on the easements, so that. That's all.
Easements, then, we need to talk about that.
Just staff time.
It would,
I love
Which
that,
is
just
very
that time.
Which is very valuable.
Right.
I think we'd have the city attorney do the easements for us, and then,
I mean, we have existing easements, okay, for each property, except for the new one. We would just need, you would have to review them and maybe change the names and add perhaps the city and our, basically we're changing the names on the easements that exist, most likely.
I see that, Madam Mayor, is under our current contract. We're not going to charge extra for something like that. And if Sharon can get us the legal descriptions or whatever we need to do.
Our staff has already been provided those, so you can get those to us.
So if you can get that to us.
Okay.
I'll talk with Clay, who's our property guy in our group, and just make sure that I'm right, but we can piggyback on what has already been done and insert the new legal on the other one. And that's just not a lot of legal work. We can get that done.
Okay.
Well,
Any comments now?
yeah, I was just saying, all we're basically doing is the easement or the MOU with the easement type of thing. They're going to get the sign, put the signs in. On this point in time, we would have to worry about it, and we're not cleaning it any sooner than 6 months.
it looks terrible, I will go out there. and
Okay,
fix it.
it's on the record. No,
But, you know,
I drive by those signs.
I would like to clarify, you know, because when you said just staff time, that, our staff has been stretched to the very limit with budgeting and all the work that has to be done around here. So when you're talking about money, that's when we need to think about what it's gonna cost and how we can do it, because we have so many other priorities that have to be done.
Absolutely.
So I'm sorry, not said.
I guess, and I would agree, I agree, and I think maybe what we can do, Linda, is basically so maybe consensus or something to let the city manager and them engage in an MOU and see if there's language they can come up with that staff can live with and also accomplish this. So we're not carte blanche saying yes, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? They know the limits of their staff, and I think they could work out whatever the MOU is from that standpoint. I'm joking, but that's the reason I asked about the maintenance, because I did not want that to become a burden, and all of a sudden we don't have the person, and pretty soon it's decaying type of thing. So it was.
You guys remember the previous signs, I'm sure. Yeah, well, some of you, I'm sure do. And you had a photo of them. And I don't think they got any maintenance at all. And they still look pretty good. And I think some are still there.
Yeah, most of them, 5 of the 6 are still.
So those were made with lesser materials and have never been maintained at all.
Right.
And they look pretty good. So I think these will look better with a little bit of maintenance, you know, and they should be fine. The paints are designed to hold a curve.
I know Bruce is going to say something. I guess the other issue would become further down when you start talking about the landscaping and so forth and lighting. That I think is where
that's
more of the city's
That's where a
thing.
lot of the money.
Because,
that's what it's.
no,
Yeah,
I understand,
that'll
no,
be
I'm
budgeted
talking
in
down the
future
road.
years.
That's where the maintenance or the personnel may come into play, but that's down the road. I think Bruce wanted to say something.
Yeah, we don't have any
So
staff.
Sharon and I have talked pretty long and hard about this, and the way the current easements are set up is a sewer program that doesn't exist anymore. So we can't really go, we don't have an agreement to go on there and do anything. Main Street program's not around anymore, so these easements are kind of up in here. Who takes care of them? Who's responsible for them? So that was the thought process when we all were talking about this, and it was, Sharon that brought it up was, well, let's redo the easements, because we don't have the Main Street program anymore, so, but let's put them in the city's name. This way, if our High Springs isn't around in 10 years, it still comes back to the city and we can still maintain them at that point in time, instead of them just being up in the air where they are right now, because whose are they? Who's responsible for taking care of them? And that's kind of where we fell into this gray area at this point in time. So redo, either way, whether we go with what they're doing or not, we need to address these easements where the signs are currently maintained.
I think it's a good idea for what it's worth.
If I could add one quick thing regarding the style of the signs. I think the company that designed those signs originally really did a great job with the design, the visual design of them. Many of you have probably seen the new sign that Alachua put in on 441. Very nice signs, very well done. Looks like the kind of sign you'd see in front of any neighborhood or town anywhere in Florida. There's not a lot about it that's really unique to Alachua. These signs in particular, we talk about historic Alachua. They have that very historic look. They have a hand-painted scene on them, and I think of High Springs as a very artistic town, and quaint and artistic and historic is, I think of High Springs. I think these signs do a particularly good job of reflecting that, and they are signs that will be unique to the city.
The signs are beautiful. I don't have a bit of problem at all with the signs. They truly are. I just voiced my other opinions and.
Okay.
So we can get a recommendation then for staff to work with us on these.
I don't know if it takes a motion or if it's just if it's a consensus deal, but I would be in favor of let's sitting down and see what we can come up with.
We have our direction on
I
it.
mean, we have some signs they want to put in here. It seems
We'll get it
We
done.
shouldn't throw it away.
We'll get it done.
Thank you so much.
Sharon, I think you have my contact information. I think I may have gotten an email from you, maybe.
Maybe, right.
Maybe it came from the city,
Okay,
but,
maybe okay. No.
okay. But feel free to contact us directly, yes.
Okay, are we ready to move forward to item number 8 on unfinished business? Consider, discuss, and act on ordinance 2020-11.
Madam Mayor and City Commissioners, I just kind of wanted to update y'all on where we're at. I'm just going
I
to
think
start.
we need to get it into the record
sorry.
first.
Happy to do so, Madam Mayor. This is an ordinance of the City of High Springs, Florida, amending the official zoning map of the City of High Springs Land Development Code as amended, relating to the rezoning of 10 or more contiguous acres of land pursuant to an application Z2004 by the property owner of said acreage, providing for a rezoning from R1 residential to R3 residential of certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of High Springs, Florida, repealing all ordinances in conflict and providing for severability and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass, deny, or you certainly have the option to continue to a date certain. Ordinance number 2020-11.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, City Manager.
Okay, there's been a very long timeline on this zoning case, so I just wanted to go over the timeline with y'all and where we're at. On November 24th, an ordinance was approved on first reading to pass the zoning request. At that time, there was direction to work with staff on a development agreement because what the developer wanted to do was not in line completely with the zoning request. The zoning request would allow lots that are 4,500 square feet, and the developer stated they would do larger size lots, and the thought process was to get that in writing. So then there are several renditions of the development agreement that went back and forth, resulting in a meeting on July 22nd. Basically, staff and the developer weren't in agreement on several areas of the development agreement, including that they wanted to do 5,000 and 6,000 square foot lots. In an analysis of Bailey Phase 2, the majority of lots, which I have included on here for you, are 8,000, 9,000, and 10,000 square foot lots. The developer agreed to do, said that they would work with staff and consider doing 7,000 square foot lots, which they have included in the development agreement. Staff, I put the development agreement in front of you that they have, that they gave to staff. As you can see, the majority of the development agreement and requests that staff put in there have been marked through. They provided that to us on August 18th. They provided a first round that staff said that they needed to have more comments to explain why they marked through so much. So on August 24th, they gave us a second round of comments. On September 12th, staff gave the comments to the city attorney's office. The city attorney needs some time to review those comments. As you can see, when so much of the development agreement is marked through, it takes more time. At this point, as I stated, the comments are in the city attorney's office, and the developer has not received staff's comments. I did put staff's comments right next to you to review. So the action you can take tonight is to consider moving forward on the zoning change, or you can continue while we continue to try to work on a development agreement to a future date. Allison McGrath with Kinley Horn was going to represent the zoning case. She cannot be here tonight, and she cannot be here the first meeting in October, but she is available the second meeting in October. But staff does not feel like the zoning request before you is compatible, as stated before, because the request is for 4,500 square foot lots, which are around almost half the sizes of what's out there right now.
So, Madam Mayor, the way legal looks at this sort of thing is, it would be beneficial to have a full complement of the commissioners at the meeting where this is decided. This is a pretty large issue for us, number one. And I think there may be some conflicts with commissioners being present if you choose to continue this to a date certain in the future. We should try to pick a time when we hope that all the commissioners can be here. That's point number one. Point number two is, from a legal standpoint, we want to have a development agreement that we believe suits the city and suits this property. And so we want to work on that. And it is going to take us a little bit of time. I went through the draft of it last week. We did some work on it today. And Kirsten thankfully was working on it. But we didn't have a Word document to work from. So she's having to go through the painstaking process of adding things and making sure that what city staff wants is what's in this agreement. And then I want to get it back to Ashley, have her look at it, make sure she's good with it. And then it goes on to the developer in this instance. So, but when it comes to a hearing, my preference is that because of the way this works in a quasi-judicial manner, my preference would be that our planner is here, because when I look at it, it may be that surrounding property owners wish to contest our decision. Let's say we approve it. There needs to be substantial and competent evidence in the record to support the decision to approve it. Let's say we deny it. There needs to be substantial and competent evidence in the record to deny it. And my job is to put you in the best position from a legal standpoint. I do a lot of litigation, and so I want to make sure we're in as strong a position. Your collective decision, whether it's up or down, whatever you decide, my job is to make you in the strongest position that I can possibly put you in. And frankly, that's having Allison here. That's really the bottom line.
I would say at some point, if y'all decide to continue, staff would like to request that there's a take it or leave it development agreement, because at this time it's wasting a significant amount of staff time and it's holding up other important projects with developers who are willing to work with us in a much better capacity.
In other words, the edits we make this time is probably, as far as staff will go, you all are free to do whatever it is you want to do. If you like the staff changes, then we go with that. But staff is going to make some recommendations, and that's where we're at.
And many of the things some of the things the commissioners even mentioned at the last meeting they wanted in the development agreement were struck through in this round again by the developer.
All right, commissioner comments? What do you think?
Oh, well, I mean, to me, we're almost talking two separate issues. We're talking a development agreement, which in my mind has nothing to do with what's before us. We're talking about rezoning. I understand we do the development agreement, we approve that, then we approve this rezoning because you have the development agreement. But help me out here, because to me, what is before us is they want to rezone R1 to R3. And they're going to go down to 4,000 square foot, which is non-compatible, whatever the word is, excuse me, with what's there. When we read it the first time, for what it's worth, and you tell me on the deal, when we read it the first time, basically, and I've done this before, and the one thing to keep in mind, we've done this before, we pass this and it goes to the second reading, doesn't mean that we approve anything. We're just basically moving it to the next step so we can research and still talk. Nothing's done. We can still come back on the second reading and say no. Moving this forward just saves the cost of re-advertising, which is $406, and that's what we said. If we approve it, they don't have to re-advertise again. And we've done this for other projects. This isn't the first one. We usually do the first one so we can expedite the process. So tell me why we don't vote on the rezoning tonight and then leave the development agreement open to be done.
Your point is a good one, that these two things are not linked together. You can enter into a development, a contractual arrangement to say, look, you don't get any vested concurrency with this. You don't have the ability to tie into our sewer system, which this agreement says that hey, we are not making any representations to sewer, or whether or not you can pull permits once you start putting houses on the ground here. You don't have that ability. And of course, there's a number of other things that are in this development agreement that are considerations that we would request from city staff to be in agreement. Sidewalks, the street design, things of that nature. Now, the one thing that you cannot do in this situation is contract zone. So you can't say, if you do this, we will support zoning change, or we will give you zoning change. That you cannot do, because that's contracting away your right to determine whether the zoning is correct. So to your point, you're exactly right. Zoning is a separate concept than this particular concept, which is a development agreement. So we really unhinge those two things. But the intensity of the use in R3 zoning on this property, which is incompatible with the surrounding areas, is why staff cannot look at this. The density and intensity just does not work at 4,500 square feet. Right. And the developer is saying, no, we agree with that to some extent. So we're going to agree from a contractual standpoint to go with 7,000 square feet. City staff is saying, even that is problematic the way the document looks at this point. That's where I understand us to be right now. So to your point now on the zoning question, we don't have our planner here. We don't have, in a quasi judicial circumstance, we want our expert to be here to supplement the record with substantial and competent evidence. Without that, we are taking a chance in court that is a lesser chance than I would like to have. That's really the bottom line.
Okay. So the issue then is simply we table this and we choose a date when we can be here, because we're not going to do anything tonight.
Is there any way we could stop working on the development agreement and get direction on just allowing the zoning to go through and stop working on the development agreement to stop wasting staff's time? I mean, because even right now, they put 55-foot width in there, which was a new one that I hadn't seen before. And that's different than everything in Bailey Phase 2. So, even if
less width than Bailey.
Yes, and then the 20-foot width streets, Bailey Phase 2 has 22-foot width streets. I mean, it just continually goes on. And so at some point, can we just move the zoning forward as is and just halt on the development agreement, since they're two separate issues? Then if they...
We can, I think, based upon city staff's review. Ashley spent a great deal of time on this.
That's part of
Christie's spent a great deal of time on this as well. We have spent considerable time on this from start to where we're at right now, and just in the last week or so, we've spent time. But we're at a point of being done from the city standpoint.
I would disagree. If I have the copy of the development agreement with my comments, I have 2.5 pages of comments. And we are not making progress. We're not even, if you look at everything they mark through, it's substantial. And every time we get the development agreement back from them, they do the same thing. So, I would not agree that we're making progress at all.
Well, let me refine my comment. I think progress is certainly in question. That's certainly the case. I guess the message is city staff is done, and we can get what we have back to the developer and CHW with a message that we're done. This is where we're at.
Yeah.
And either the development agreement comes along with this project, or we'll unhinge it and we just go straight to
Well,
zoning.
I would suggest that we do that. I mean, I would suggest that we get into this. This is it. We're not, don't come back with any scratch outs or whatever you want to do it. This is what we're going to approve. We've seen this thing. I mean, I get it. At some point in time, I just having this zoning thing out there for however long it's been now, when this isn't a zoning
Almost a
issue,
year.
it's a development agreement issue now.
Right.
The zoning is no longer a part. So I understand we need to have that here to basically show and prove the incompatibility or whatever, the non-compatibility on the work. I get that from a legal standpoint. What I'd like to know is what is the time frame that we're going to do this, so we're not spending every hour and time doing it.
Right.
So let's get a time thing here tonight. Let's do this. Let's get it here. And on October 28th, that's when it's coming before whatever's there is going to come, and we're going to either approve it or knock it down, but we ain't going to do any longer.
That's gonna be the end of it.
I would like to request a take it or leave it development agreement. It's.
No, that's what I'm saying.
They've had the
That's it.
opportunity for months to work with staff, and they continue to strike through the majority of the agreement every time and just do little baby steps. And I even heard today there was some talk about pivoting again. So
Let me ask this question. You want all 5 people here?
Yeah, I think that would be
Okay.
very
I will
helpful.
not be here October 14th. I will be out of town and have no access to the deal. So I guess what I'm proposing, and the deal is you got your deal, we've seen it, you present it, and then I'm assuming everybody can be here October 28th.
Yeah, actually, I would, well, I highly unlikely I can be here on the 28th.
Okay,
Should
so
we
we're not going to
call-
have 5. So,
Unless you go to first meeting in November.
then I won't be here.
No. Well, that's right. It will be a new commissioner at that point. And we should clear this up before.
This doesn't need to linger, and a new commissioner
Just
coming
get it over with.
on
No.
doesn't have it. It would be unfair for the new commissioner to have to vote.
Have to step into this.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, if I can join by Zoom, I will, but that's the best I would be able to do, and I can't promise that. But I would, I mean, yeah.
Yes.
I want to point out historically, the city, at the reorganization meeting, they generally take care of, there's unfinished business. They have taken care of that item first, and then they will convene the new.
Yep.
Yes,
Oh, yes.
yes.
Okay, that is a possibility then.
Do we know that all of us will be here?
That's the 18th, I think, or something. isn't it?
The 11th. Oh, is it the 18th? Okay.
I mean, there's no guarantee that 5 of us can be here. I mean, no definite guarantee. I mean,
There's no malicious attempt on our part not to have all 5
no,
here.
no, no,
It
no, no,
happens.
that's what I'm
with
saying.
you. No, I'm
Yeah.
with you. So, what would you suggest, Mr. Walker?
If you're
Are you
done
saying
with it.
put it on the,
I'm done.
but I think
have
from the land development thing, I think Mr. Hados needs to sit there and basically go, because I'm assuming, I don't know this, I'm assuming she has talked with, with commissioners on the deal. So give it to them and say, I mean, this is long enough. Give it to them and say, this is it. You start striking stuff out, say goodnight, Irene. I mean, I don't understand it. I mean, at some point in time,
can we stop it right now? Just since,
well, I
I
guess,
mean, do we want to go to
That was my
November?
question. Why do we have to continue with the development agreement where, we saw what they came back the last 2 times, so why don't we just move forward with the zoning and stop the development agreement and act on that whenever is appropriate and Allison can be here?
that's good.
That is certainly one of the options that you
And
have.
then they can just start up they can do whatever they want after that. So we could put that on, say, forget it, either meet this, come in with the deal, or we're gonna vote on the zoning. And what is the date that we would need to put for that? Because you want all five here.
I just don't see any reason to, I just don't see how the 2.5 pages.
Don't do it.
I agree. And it's been
They
going
know-
on almost a year now.
They know where you're at.
It's been long enough. Definitely.
So what date do we want to do the zoning thing? Because what you're saying,
When's our meeting in November? Our first meeting is the 11th, is that right? The 18th? I would suggest November 18th.
November 18th.
he wants to say something.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, yes, go right ahead.
Craig Fraser with CSW, just wanted to be clear on the date and moving both items to that date.
We're not moving both items. There's only one item up on the agenda. That's the zoning. There is nothing on here for land development.
Because in my mind, these are connected.
In my
Because-
mind too.
Because the zoning, what we're trying to alleviate with the development agreement are your concerns with the straight zoning. So we're trying to fill that gap. So that's what the development agreement did. That's why we went into the process of working on a development agreement. Because the first time, at first reading, you recommended approval of just the R3 zone.
There's a reason we did it.
Understood, and we appreciate it.
Well, I'm just saying that when we did it, I just want to make sure there's no discrepancy. When we did the first one, it wasn't a carte blanche, we're going to do it.
No, understood.
Okay, I mean,
Then when the ask came in for development agreement, we began working on it. And there were very few issues that led to the beginning of that development agreement. We've addressed those issues. When we got the draft, there was a lot more issues in there, and we have continued to work through those. But still, we are anxiously awaiting written comments from staff, because through this process, we've never received written comments.
Given written comments on several of the renditions. The last ones are currently in review. However, every time we have had several meetings also with verbal comments, that we've been on several Zoom meetings with our city attorney's office. And what's been coming back has not taken in account our comments or comments of commissioners at previous meetings. And when you say you've been working with staff, when you look at what you've given back, every single time, that's not showing working with staff very well.
I mean, we have copies of our latest version.
They have it in front of them right now, Craig.
We would happily address any comments, but I would agree with the recommendation of your attorney and staff that come back when everyone is here and your planning consultant is here. So we are in agreement with that.
Is not to continue working on the development agreement.
But to understand where our points of differences are, we do need those written comments.
For the city attorney's office to decide.
Okay, so what do you want from, a motion to
I just think we're going-
reschedule this for the,
Table this for November 18th.
right?
And what's the direction on the development agreement?
I would say stop at this
Don't
point.
do it.
Yeah, I mean, give them whatever comments you have, but that's it.
I mean, that's a long time away. November 18th.
We will get that out. It's in our shop right now, and we'll get that out.
Okay.
Okay.
So, Madam Mayor, as a point of clarity, if there is agreement reached on the development agreement, how is that formalized? How is that approved?
What would happen is city staff would say, we have an agreement that we all can, the developer and the city staff are in support of, and we would schedule that for sometime between now and November 18th.
We do it on the same 18th, you do it on
We
the
could do it on the
same day,
same
right?
meeting, but it would be before we do the zoning.
Right,
decision.
you would have that as item 1, and then the zoning
Correct.
would be item 2.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah, we just approve that before we approve the zoning.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So do we need a second and a vote on the motion to retable?
It's just a. You do to table it, you do?
Yes.
I apologize. I'll make a motion to table it till November 18th.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been properly moved and second that ordinance 2020-11 be moved to November 18, 21. Do we need roll call, Ms. Palm, here? No? No? Okay.
All in favor?
Yeah, all those in favor respond with aye, please.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries 4-0. That takes care of that. Well, I should have asked for comments, but nobody comment. All right. And now it's time for citizens requests and comments.
Madam Mayor, just for a point of record, there was a chat comment from Ms. Landis to Commission. She requested that the zoning not be changed. This is a matter of record.
This is the individual from Bailey Estates,
Yeah.
right, Ms.
Yeah.
Landis?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Pam Landis.
Right.
Mhm. Okay,
Ms. Landis is actually raising her hand. I can bring her in if you'd like.
all right.
Ms. Landis, you should be able to speak to the commission now.
Good evening, City Commissioners and Mayor. Thank you so much for putting this on the table again. I'm continuing to ask that you all please do not let this go through. Do not change zoning. If we have an opportunity to give this developer an inch, he's going to take a mile. I please ask you all not to do the rezoning. Don't let them make small plots and change our town. You just were talking about a beautiful sign to say, welcome to our good nature. If we keep allowing this much building happening in our town, we're not going to have a good nature. It's going to be a South Florida cement zoo. So I'm just, please don't do the rezoning. Please do not allow this developer an inch. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have anybody else, Kevin?
No, ma'am, that was it.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's move along to item number 9. Consider, discuss, and act on an interlocal agreement for maintenance and operations of traffic signals, school beacons, devices, and connected vehicle devices. Ms. Palm.
This is the same agreement that we did everywhere, not the agreement, but the city, it's an agreement every year with the DOT where they pay us to maintain the traffic signal signs in High Springs. We do not have the equipment or the personnel to do that. So we contract with the city of Gainesville and they charge us to do that. In the past, we've always, they made money, but DOT always paid us more than we actually had to pay to do the maintenance. For the one that's presented tonight is for 2022, and the city of Gainesville has done away with the discount that they used to give us. So now it actually is going to be $700 and something over what DOT pays us. So I understand that there was some talk of maybe tabling it to see if there's somebody else who could possibly, we could check in to see if they could do the maintenance, such as we have with the city of Gainesville, because we have plenty of time. This is not for until 2022.
Is it GRU or the city of Gainesville that
City of
agrees?
Gainesville.
You just want us to table this until?
I'm good with passing it, whatever the commissioners are.
I guess I mean, before it was a pass-through, I still think we need to be responsible with the money. And now, for whatever reason, there's, 33% increase in the cost. It's like, well, is Lake City interested in doing it at a lesser price that where we're not having to do the delta? Because they're just as close. Or even, Columbia County, or something. So I guess I'm just curious what the alternatives are, because before it seemed like a partnership where Gainesville, was helping out a smaller municipality with their resources, and now it seems like we're becoming a customer. So I guess I'm just curious if we've got time to look and see what the options are.
We definitely got time, but from before we never actually looked into it because, like I say, we always had money over.
I would think we would want to hold off, table it, and see what are out there, and if there's nothing, okay, if there is,
Then we'll go.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. But you don't need anything else further from us? Okay. All right, then, let's move right along to our city attorney's report and update.
Madam Mayor, I'd ask that Kirsten Ballou come forward and tell us her news.
Okay.
Can you see that smile through that mask?
All very dramatic, but that's just to say that today I passed the Florida bar and the MVP. And this afternoon, Judge Grieve at the Electric County Courthouse swore me in as an attorney with Florida bar.
All right, very good.
Congratulations.
Yes.
So that's a big step, and the benefit that we had this afternoon with Judge Grieve is listening to the oath again. And that's something that you need to live by as a lawyer, and it's always good to hear it again, what you're supposed to do and what you're supposed to adhere to as far as our ethics and all that has led Kirsten to this point, which is a lot of school, a lot of studying to get by this hurdle, and we're just so very pleased that she's welcomed into the bar and welcomed into our office, and you're going to see her around here a bunch because she's learning a lot about local government law, so it's a great addition to our group. We're real pleased to have you, Kirsten. Madam Mayor, that's all I had.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Great.
Oh, that's right. We have ethics training. Kirsten is November 18th. Is that right? Okay, that is one of our,
Yeah, that's.
and that's the night that we just continue this to. Yeah, but I need to be, all right, well. Yeah, that's true. I can come here and you can do that. So that'll work. That's fine. So it'll be November 18th. And we will have a video made as well, so you can watch the video. And instead of coming and listening to the great presentation that's going to be made, you'll be watching that same presentation on video.
That sounds much fun, though. But we'll do it.
We'll do it this year. Next year, we'll make sure.
Right. Busy year.
That's right.
All right. November 18th. Okay, Samantha?
Many of y'all were there, but I'd just like to mention how wonderful the September 11th rededication was. Kevin did a wonderful job, and it was amazing, and I'm so glad I was there. Tried to hold back tears, but I don't think that anything was missed in the ceremony, and I just appreciate that we are a city that did that.
Yes, indeed. Wasn't going to forget you tonight.
Okay, I was getting used to it. On Thursday, Swanee River Water Management awarded the water tie-in project we've been working on for the waterline loop that will connect River Glen and River Run subdivision. So it was approved.
So we've got to button up some easements. We've got to, already talked to our engineer this afternoon. We're working on the bid specs now, and hopefully we'll be taking it out to bid here in the next couple of weeks. So that project's been approved. That's been a long project. We've been working on that for 5 years. We finalized 2 grants that went in last Thursday for some roadway infrastructure improvements. So one grant was around 12.7 million requested funds. The other grant was around 15.4 million requested funds. So we sent both of those off. It's in the same pot of money that the third well went to, or not the third well, excuse me, the new water plant. So we've got about $45 million in grants floating out there right now for some different infrastructure needs. Had some questions on the fire trucks. We got a lot of stuff buttoned up on them. They were in the queue. Financing, we've pretty much got secured. Still waiting on the final numbers to come back on the prepayment discount. So I haven't forgot about that. I'll be coming back in October. And AMI, AMR, the RFQ is being reviewed by the attorney's office. As soon as I get it back from them with their verbiage changes, we should be going out for bid on that here very shortly too, to report back to the commission. And that's all I got.
Thank you. Do anybody have any announcements?
I have a sign.
The sign out front there.
Yes,
Nice sign.
yes. the
It's a
good-
beautiful
beautiful
sign.
I've been working on that for years.
You have,
Yeah.
yes, and it is beautiful.
Thank you. Commissioner Ambrose.
The only thing I wanted to comment on is I think all of us received an email about noise complaints from one of the local businesses. And I'm just curious if city staff have, checked to see about any violations of the noise ordinance or what have you with that establishment.
On the new complaint,
Yes.
Yeah, there's a new one came.
the new one that came on Saturday has not followed up on yet. Chief Shepherd will be back on Wednesday. He's in Tallahassee for legislative session, so I'll address it with him on Wednesday when he gets back. I know some of the other complaints that were addressed, they were within the time that the North Ordinance has established. They were off by 10 o'clock, but I do not know if anybody's been out there to actually check or follow up on that, so I can get you an answer.
Okay.
Unless, JP, are you aware where the code is at on that?
Oh, no, I didn't leave the show.
Okay.
Thank you.
But yes, we're aware and we're following up on it.
Okay. Because I know of about 3 of them that's out there right now that I had. Okay.
There's been several.
Yeah, I know. Commissioner James. Vice Mayor Jones.
Nope.
All right, let's go home. I need
Okay.
a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, meeting